from CNN is reporting that, quote, several U.S. federal government agencies have been hit with a global cyber attack. Now, this attack exploits a vulnerability in widely used software. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said that they are working urgently to understand impacts and ensure timely remediation. It's not immediately clear if the hackers are part of a Russian-speaking ransomware group that has claimed credit for a number of other situations in the hacking campaign.
European banks, you will soon be witnessing the most powerful cyber attack in the recent history of the world. Be prepared, because when we strike, it will be too late to make amends. Many European banks will be targeted and we will hit without mercy.
World has gone mad. The reason for this is money. If God rules Russia, then who rules Europe? That's right, the banking system. No money, no problem.
Today we witnessed the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges of which he and numerous other presidents would be guilty. Right in the middle of a presidential election in which he is losing very badly. This is called election interference and yet another attempt to rig and steal a presidential election.
Now, do we actually need to start making sure that our meat is not mRNA vaccinated meat?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not to be a doomer here, but they'll eventually just get you with mosquitoes. You know?
No.
Yeah, they can.
No.
In California,
no.
They vaccinate via mosquitoes.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. So it seems like all of our psyops are coming together. Last week we had aliens. This week we got cyber Polygon. Welcome to the show, Drew Missen from your Missing the Point.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. This should be a very interesting conversation. Like you said, a lot of things are coalescing all to a single point now.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the WEF has the crystal ball and you know, oh, event 201. Oh, wow, it happened. Cyber Polygon, food chain reaction. All of these ops that they talk about end up happening. Wonder what's going on there.
Exactly. If only we could get the lottery numbers from these guys, then we'd be fine.
Yeah, they'll predict the weather too, because they probably have
because they make it.
Tech. Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Well, funny enough, NASA's in on this this hacking incident as well. They're talking about solar winds, and this probe thing. They sent it into a solar flare, which I'm thinking. They got this little scooper on a probe and it's going into a solar flare. I'm thinking that it's all BS. Just it sounds made up.
That sounds like they're getting ready to say there's another Carrington event and they're just going to shut the grid off and go, oh no, it's a solar flare. That's what totally did it. It wasn't us just flipping the switch.
Right. And so then there's also this thing all being tied to Russia somehow. And in fact, one of the hacking groups said that they hailed from Sudan. And I was just listening to No Agenda right before talking to you. And he was mentioning, Adam was mentioning that Victoria Noodleman Kagan ended up leaving Sudan recently, 2.5 months ago. So that's on their shit list anyway. So that they're involved with Russia in some way, and they have a serious war going on there. But yeah, so this hacking group, which names all the names of everybody who they would want to be the culprit for it. So I'm thinking that you know, and I don't want these guys to get mad at me because I don't want them to, you know, delete my bank account. And it seems like that's what they're trying to do right now anyway. And yeah, these guys must be an op. They must be, it's like the plot point in all those movies where the government hires hackers because they catch them hacking and they go, hey, you can work for us or blah blah blah, and then they do these elaborate productions and put them out on the dark web, and then you got your boogeyman, and they're in cool costumes, they got their anonymous masks.
Yeah, it's like we're living in a movie, a Hollywood movie, and they're priming society with all of these events that are bringing up to this point, and they've just released the villain of the film, so to speak. But you're right how they keep coming back to Russia. It's not like we're living in some kind of a 1980s movie. It's not like we're fighting the USSR. It's been an independent nation or federation for quite a while now, and somehow they keep being the bad guys. It's like they've only got the one playbook.
Right. Well, when I looked up the original Ice Age Farmer video where he dug up the WEF's plan for Cyber Polygon, no one knows where Ice Age Farmer is right now, by the way. But
yes,
anyway,
I've been missing him for a long time.
Watched his video, and he mentions that that they were trying to tie the cyber attack, that the cyber attacks may be tied to Russia, someone who hacked us in the election of 2016. They were running with that 3 years ago in the summer of 2020.
It's
way before all this escalated. Yeah.
It's actually really scary though that they've played the fear on this really well, because if it is a staged event or it is a real hacking event, either way, the grid, or at very least the internet, is going down. And unfortunately, there's a large amount of our modern infrastructure which is reliant on internet access. Gas lines, water, electricity at terminals, all of these things require access to the internet these days. It's not solid hardware anymore. Everything's gone digital. So there would be massive repercussions in a Western modern society. Yeah,
there's even internet stuff going on in the trucks here. I'm sure that that pen and paper would work, but I drive for a company that got hacked a couple of years ago, and it shut electronic things down for about a week, and it's been happening at a lot of food distribution centers. Go back to food chain reaction. And being a trucker, we're part of the food chain as well. So yeah, they can use this to do a lot of things. They can definitely use it to justify a war. All they have to do is have something go down and blame it on the right people. And these governments can't control what outside agents do. For one, it's not like it's official. This is a Chinese hacker and China put him up to it. It's it's a rogue Chinese hacker that's doing stuff probably against their government's plans, but it's usually probably just a US agent in a costume so that they can get everything that they want out of the false flags that they tend to do.
It's a multi-pronged approach, because if they do manage to do this and pull it off, not only would it justify a kinetic war with the bad guys, air quote, it would also allow them to usher in CBDCs. The answer to, everyone's banking details have been wiped and we no longer have access to how much money you had in the bank. So we're just going to put everyone on a universal basic income. And the scary part is in Australia, they've been really running that home in the past 12 months, getting that type of system set up. But they're always saying they're future-proofing. They're getting things in place just in case something happens. Well, they're future-proofing something that looks like it's going to be a reality very soon.
That's why I, as the disclaimer in the front of the show says, I don't give advice, but I recommend hard assets, things that are useful, and think of things that other people can use, because you'll be trading and things like that. That's usefulness is the key to the things that you want to keep around. It'll help you, and it'll probably help somebody else.
Oh, the amount of hardware I have in my garage. Jesus, the tools, the nails, the screws, the hinges, scrap timber. I think that would probably be gold in a real situation where something like that happened. But like you said, this is a healthy bit of speculation, because if we don't speculate, we can't form our own hypothesis of what could happen and what we would do in that situation. Otherwise, we're just sitting on our asses and waiting for it to happen and then reacting.
Well, if they cut the power, it's not like people are going to be able, people will be able to trade Bitcoin to an extent. You could trade a hard wallet and trust the person that the hard wallet is, or the cold storage is actually cold, and and then whenever the internet comes back, you can do it. But Bitcoin doesn't solve this, and
No.
and it's just one of those things. And there's ways to get power back on, but as far as the internet, if the internet is all wonky, then that could be a mess too. I'm sure that there's ways that it can come back, and that there will be regions where it will be on, but it's going to affect the value.
Imagine the headaches it would cause if everyone's information, like your digital presence, was wiped from the internet. Trying to prove your identity to get things done is hard enough now. Like if you're trying to apply for a bank loan, or you're trying to buy a car or something like that, the amount of ID verification you have to put into that to get it in a world of a digital ID, like it's essentially your little imprint is on the internet, so they can verify it, but it still takes time. Imagine if you had to do that with physical assets. Oh, this is my last physical bill. This is my driver's license. This is my passport. A lot of people don't actually have anything physical anymore. So if you're trying to prove who you are and say, the banking grid went down and I actually had $70,000 in the bank and my mortgage was paid off, how could you prove that if all the information's wiped from the system?
Well, I would think we would be in chaos, and we would be seeing a lot of things that when order's out the window, order has to be created in some way, and hopefully that way is that everybody from the neighborhood gets together and makes sure that there's no crime and that everybody is doing okay. But if you're in certain places, then you're going to get run by the criminals. You're going to get run by the cartel in some places. You're going to get run by the street gangs in other places. You're going to get run by the government in some places. And so if your idea of where you want to have refuge is somewhere where you and your neighbors handle things.
Yeah, it's the rule of the jungle. The strongest comes out on top. And if you're in a city where there's less than scrupulous people who wouldn't hesitate to do horrible things to you, they're going to be on top very quickly. But like you said, if you're in a really strong community and you've got those ties already, your strength is in numbers. And that's where it's going to come down to.
Right. So make friends with people that you can, and don't show them that you're a problem, and don't be a problem. So, that's a key right there. So survival key number one, and be useful. We talked about that a few weeks ago, that there was a nurse at Childerberg, and he taught us a whole bunch of tips and tricks and told us equipment to carry around with us and things like that. And if you're useful whenever things are going down, then you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah, and it's a catch-22 as well, because you don't want to overshow your hand either. You don't want to be that crazy isolationist guy who the neighborhood knows has got preps and has everything aside, because you're going to be the target. When people start to get hungry, their anger is going to be directed towards you, as you're the guy who's been hoarding all this stuff aside. So you definitely need to be community-minded.
Yeah, that's another thing is we watch all these things, and they tease us with all of these things that they've been talking about for 3 years now. By the way, 3 years on most of these psyops, 4 years on Event 201, and they actually pulled that one off. They did it in October and started in January, so that one was a fast track. They had to get rid of Orange Man, and he's in some trouble. What do Australians think of the Orange Man?
He's a bit of a joke, honestly. We either see him as the left-leaning people would see him the same way as your Democrats would. He's a racist, bigot, homophobe, the worst person in the world, Orange Man bad type of a deal. Then I think the rest of conservative Australians kind of see him as a prophet for the Q-tards. Like we see him as from an outside. We don't have any skin in the game with Trump. We kind of watch him from the outside and go, geez, he seems to be just the person they're dangling for the opposition. He's got a lot going on about him, which I question. I have my reservations about. He's He pushed Operation Warp Speed. He's one of the very few presidents in American history who pushed for gun reform and gun control, which you never saw the Democrats try and do as much as he did. And he's the only one there. And I can't help but feel all these indictments that he's had over the past 12 months, that's being done to boost a cult of personality for him so that he's the only political option for the Republicans. Not that I'm a person who thinks there's a right or left
That's exactly
paradigm.
what I was thinking. I'm thinking that the whole time. That's exactly what my friends. Oh, do you think he's in real trouble this time? And I know Merrick Garland has an erection for him and is going to keep going after him. But at the same time, I know that this boosts him and keeps him in the limelight, and he loves attention like this. So yeah.
Well, he's a TV personality, isn't he? And the problem is, you see, like the latest indictment of all these air quotes files they found. Those are the most staged photos I've ever seen. They literally look like brand new office boxes that have been placed in a room and a photo taken. A man with his excess of wealth does not need to store nuclear codes and defense secrets in a fucking toilet. He could have a safe. He could have a shipping container. Why are they on a stage, a literal stage in one photo, and then in a toilet? It doesn't make sense.
Well, it's they're presenting it. It's, you know, most of these things are rolled out in a way that they want our eyes to see them. But you know, the other guys that had documents, nothing's going to happen to Biden, obviously, because the Justice Department is people that he appointed, and the only way that could happen is if Trump wins, I guess. But I have a feeling that he said he's going to lock up crooked Hillary the whole time in 2016 when he was running, and he never did. And she gets her cackling revenge right now. Not that I think he's going to get locked up. It's funny. I hear that, oh, Trump's been arrested, and then I see him giving a speech a day later. Okay. This is for show. This is the presentation, and I probably should stop talking about him, but he's he's one of my favorite clowns in the clown show. It always a barrel of laughs with that one.
Yeah, he's the best clown at the circus, that's for sure. Americans, if this is all a circus, Americans have the front row seat and the rest of the world's in the bleachers looking from the top in. As an American, I've got to ask
very close to what Carlin said, yeah.
Yeah.
He said whenever... Okay, real quick. He said, whenever you're born, you get a ticket to the circus. But if you're American, you got a front row seat. So that was a Carlin joke. So it's you channeled Carlin right there. It's amazing. Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry, I've got to ask. I've spoken to a lot of American podcasters, quite a few friends. What's your take on what the 2024 ballot's going to look like? Who do you see the Democrats and the Republicans putting up for president and vice president in their respective parties?
I think it's I was thinking recently that it's going to be a Trump DeSantis ticket, but it might actually just be DeSantis and probably Carrie Lake, because she's the person that the MAGAs favor, and it would be the truce, you know, and so they would have her there, and she's one of those people that wins for losing. So she just lost and said that she's fighting for us and that she's doing all this and everything, and nothing's happened. And it's been just a big show of bluster, and she's always there in the cameras and everything. And she's kind of perfect to be the Trump proxy. So say Trump actually does get arrested or ineligible to run or just bogged down with legal stuff, then he and DeSantis make a truce, and DeSantis frees him, and that makes all the diehard Trump people get behind DeSantis. So I think that might be how it plays out. I've always thought that one of the guys was going to take a fall to the other, and it was set up sort of like that. I even showed the clip, but YouTube took it away. The finger poke of doom between Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan back in late 90s NWO.
It's interesting because they're saying flat out that Biden's going to run again, but I don't see him physically getting there. But mind you, I've said that when he first got elected. I don't think he was going to last a presidency. So I'm surprised he's lasted this long. There's a lot of Democrats, from what I'm seeing, that are really upset about there not being a primary debate for the Democratic Party. That should raise a lot of red flags for the left-leaning Americans out there. But I can't help but feel, and if I was writing this as a script myself, I would have RFK Jr. run for president with Michelle Obama as his VP. And then somehow, this is a completely hypothetical here, RFK Jr. would get assassinated, leaving Michelle Obama as president.
So that's another thing is RFK. I don't know why he's doing this. I think I think he's putting himself in a bad place for doing this. First of all, so it kind of just tells me everything you need to know about him, that he's looking for something bigger, and I think he's done some good work, a lot of good research and everything, and got a ton of things to the alternative media. I don't see him shaking hands with Michael Obama. You know, I just don't. I can't see that happening. But yeah, I think it would also take a lot to get the left to go anti-vax. They were anti-corporation years ago. Now they're completely pro-corporation because all the corporations have rainbow flags on them. But they used to be anti-pharma, but they're not anymore. That's this new version of the left is it's corporate sponsored tyranny for your own good. Yeah,
they're the people who used to work in health food stores and be anti-GMO vegetables, and now they're GMO themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. What was cool though is somebody that I thought that would be completely left in this situation called me out of the blue, and I found out that she's on our side, and I thought that was really cool and gave me a lot of hope. So I was surprised by that. Just, you know, people that I used to know and don't keep. I hadn't kept up with anybody from my past because I deleted Facebook during the scamdemic. I said the magic word, and they started deleting things that I was saying, and I was upset about that. Okay, well, you're making money off of my account being there. It's the same thing with YouTube. I'm dealing with it right now. I don't know why I'm still streaming to YouTube. So reminder, everybody, there's links down here, and you follow those links, and they get you my podcast in other places, and use that instead of YouTube. Because they will get rid of me at some point. They had me pretty darn close.
Yeah, I've danced with YouTube a couple of times, and I've got hits on my account from guest spots on other people's shows. So they're definitely targeting people left, right, and center. With Polygon, with the food chain reaction, all these things that are being toyed with and thrown into the public sphere. Do you think they're actively waking people up, though? The unintended side effect is they're pushing this stuff really fast all of a sudden. I'm feeling that, and just in conversations with average people, they're starting to notice it. There's general conversations happening where people going, oh, did you hear about what they're trying to do with vaccines and cattle? I don't feel right about that. Doesn't seem normal. What's going on?
Yeah, I think so. I think to an extent, but there's the control is not what everybody thinks. I don't think I run into the loony people that think that everything that's happened over the past 3 years has been great. I don't run into those people, and I'm out all over the place. I'm in airports, I'm on buses, I'm all over the place, in truck stops a lot. And yeah, I think that the whole idea is to make everyone think that that's what people are thinking when there's very few of them. You'll find them all at the drag queen storytime events and things like that. I mean, they definitely have their true believers, but the algorithm amplifies them, and the media is made up of them.
Yeah, it's a small fringe minority that gets presented and publicized as being a greater majority than it is. And you compound that with the silent majority. That term always gets thrown around. I don't think they're silent. People talk about it, but they're empathetic about acting on it. They'll have conversations in families with friends, but they won't go beyond that. They don't want to rock the boat. They're too afraid. The the old saying, don't discuss politics or religion at the dinner table, has kind of been thrust upon society in general. And those are the conversations people will quietly have, but not take any further.
Yeah, it's true. They I guess they just hold it's some kind of way of looking at things politely. I don't know. And you don't want to get into a situation where it's a fight, because so many people are really, really strongly opinionated on something. So if you mention something that you have to be really careful when you're first talking to someone, and throw out the hints and pick up the hints whenever you do. It's a weird landscape to navigate at this point, or or screw it and lose some people that you thought were your friends, because that's happened too.
Especially like the landscape, you said, it's a minefield, because you can agree with someone on 98% of everything. You can be all down the line together, and there'll be one small little factor which will make you the worst person on the planet, and they instantly lose all faith in you as a person and not want to talk to you. I think that's the issue with with Robert Kennedy Jr., is that he's got a lot of elements about him which the right like, but he's still very hard on guns in America. And I don't think that's a winning situation for any politician in the States to try and get the vote of the right. You've got that amendment for a reason. I don't think you can sway public opinion on that ever. It's built into your DNA as a country.
I think it's a really big long shot, and I see people getting excited about it. Even Ron Paul's excited about it, and I'm just like, this is another Bernie situation. This is another Ron Paul situation. And if any politician, if they're going to make a difference, you saw what happened to McDonald, you saw what happened to Traficant, and you saw what happened to Wellstone. If somebody that can really do some damage to the system with what they have to say, then they have ways of handling that, or they'll knock them off into obscurity, like Cynthia McKinney was. She was in the House of Representatives, and now she has a small following on Twitter and a few other places, but she's not somebody that you're hearing from too much anymore.
Yeah, and you have to think about, especially the World Economic Forum and young global leaders and all these initiatives that are happening at a global scale. How much of it is planned and co-opted on both sides? Are they just simply taking it in turns and doing it all for theatre? And is there any real political answer left? I think that's a really important question people are starting to ask themselves. In America, you guys have got the ability not to vote, which is a fantastic thing. In Australia, we don't have that option. We have to vote. It's illegal not to. You'll be fined if you don't, and it's really pushed upon us as your responsibility as a good citizen to vote on something, which I don't know. I'm struggling with the idea that any one person can remove all our troubles. I think we need to do it on a grassroots level.
I think so too. I think that's the only way that it can be done. And the big reminder is that you can't save everybody. So you really have to look at geographic region, and stick to friends and family, and build a network too, because you're going to need that whenever things get messed up. But for the most part, if you can achieve a community that makes all of this stuff, this is what Pete always talks about. If you're in a neighborhood that acted like COVID never happened, then you're in a good place to be. And that's something that requires being active around there. I can't do it because I'm a truck driver, but at the same time, it's it is the answer to the situation, is to do everything for yourself and your neighbors, and build a community, and hope that works.
God, isn't that a sobering situation, that if you were one of the people where your neighbors dobbed you in for having people around at your house during lockdown, can you really trust those people ever again?
No, I would say leave if you're around those kind of people, because otherwise, whenever there's this situation next time, it could escalate. And escalation, if the escalation doesn't end up in your favor, it could mean that you have to deal with authorities or you have to deal with that person and in a crazy kind of way. Yeah, it's not anything to be around. If you have any sort of mobility whatsoever, get away from an environment like that. That's bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing a little bit of deep diving around what's happening in Australia with our food infrastructure recently, and it's making me reflect back on the past 3 years of the turkey baster rollout and everything that went along with that. I think there was a plan behind that we probably won't see for probably maybe another 10 years. But a large deal of it, I think, was priming society just for the mRNA technology in everything. I think the days of, air quotes, DNA-based vaccines, the traditional vaccines that we've known as growing up, they're going to disappear very quickly, and you're going to see just-in-time mRNA-based vaccines pop up everywhere. It's starting to look that way in our food industry in Australia with cattle. Australia's in a really unique position where, because of our isolation geographically, and we're a continent island, we're surrounded by water, we've got the best biosecurity in the world, physically and with the processes we've got in place. So in the entire inception of our country, we haven't had a foot and mouth disease outbreak. We haven't had mad cow. We haven't had viola mite until recently. And now all these things are starting to happen within the past couple of years, where why is it happening now? So during the events of COVID, what was quietly happening in the background was one of our biggest beef industries started to invest money in mRNA vaccines for lumpy skin disease in cattle, which got really great results apparently. And now they're using that as a means for, let's roll that out to foot and mouth disease, because Australia can't possibly have an outbreak of FMD. We've got Indonesia, which is our closest neighbor, which is traditionally has outbreaks all the time. And in 2022, they had a massive outbreak in Indonesia of foot and mouth disease. And our media ran it into the ground. It was the biggest scare campaign you'd ever seen. The government wanted to lock down travel from Indonesia. They wanted to ban travel into it and out, so much to the point that anyone getting off a plane who was in that geographical area either had to destroy their shoes or wash them because they were so afraid of bringing it into the country. And it just seems like these things are happening to prime society for either a real event where maybe it has got into the country, maybe it was placed in the country, or it was a completely faked event that they're going to force all the herds and all the stock agents and farmers of Australia to vaccinate their cattle with an mRNA vaccine against FMD. And I can speculate on what might happen with that. It could be a situation of cattle dropping dead over time. It could be a case of fertility rates dropping in cattle. But that's all going to compound in an event where if our beef, dairy, lamb, pig, all those industries have been vaccinated with something, and then we have a huge loss of cattle, what are we going to eat? Our herds will be decimated. There'll be multi-millions of dollars of loss, and there'll be no food. In comes the problem reaction solution from the World Economic Forum. Uncle Klaus wants us to eat the bugs. What option will we have if there's no actual animals to eat?
That's the plan. I think that's the end goal of all of this. And so the whole idea is they're going to get it into one way or another. And it's not just the meat. There's a University of Davis in Berkeley. UC Davis. Yeah, it's not in Berkeley. It's close to Berkeley. But UC Davis has been experimenting with an mRNA salad. And as you saw in the intro clip, there's the Bill Gates mosquitoes that are supposed to vaccinate us as well. And yeah, that I just grabbed that because it had both things in it, and it was Sam Hyde, and he's usually pretty funny. But yeah, they're gonna try to get into us some way or another, and you're not gonna know in a lot of places that you go to eat. They're not gonna tell you, and so you can't trust restaurant food. If you don't want that in your system at all, which I don't think you do, then you basically have to drop out of society, because it's I think it's even gonna, I think there was the issue with shedding, there was that, right? And then there's the way that they recycle toilet water, and that also ends up getting all kinds of other stuff. And I don't know how long it lives and what it does. But I remember whenever they first started coming out with this stuff, they said that it had to be at minus 40 degrees or something like that. And I know that none of them did that, because you have to get a really special kind of truck to ship that, first of all. Unless you're packing it with dry ice back there to ship something at minus 40. Most of the typical reefer units are minus 20
Yeah,
at maximum.
that gives me a lot of hope that we know that even on paper, according to themselves, it was the biggest experiment in human history. They essentially injected the majority of the Western world and sat back and watched what happened. I have a lot of hope that because they had to be refrigerated at such a low temperature, the majority of trucks taking these things around would have made these things inert and not harmful. I think that there might have been the case of different strengths, high dose, low dose, medium dose. There could have been situations where they were sitting out in the open for too long and they became inert. Hell, even shaking them apparently broke down the proteins inside it so that it don't work. So I have a pretty big hope, and I pray that it doesn't have the impact that a lot of the doom and gloomers in our community think, where it's an ultimate kill shot. I don't think that's going to come into fruition. Will there be some bad shit come out of it? Yeah, most likely. But I have the hope that we're in a position where it's not going to be as bad as our nightmares are. And if we go back to they want to get it into us, even if it's not a case of transferring the spike protein via ingesting, think about it as a means of just culling food systems. That's going to create another Holodomor 2.0. They could starve the majority of the world out.
Yeah, and I mean, these are technocratic communists, and that's what communists do. They starve you. That's how they get compliance, and that's how they're going to get the lab meats that are 3D printed, with probably bug nutrition as well, just because that, they can't just stop at the microplastics. They want you to eat the bugs and everything else, and none of us, all of us, have microplastics in us. No one's immune to that. It's in so many things. Just putting stuff in a lot of these plastic containers will leach plastic into it, and yeah, and we're just surrounded by it. It's everywhere. So yeah, I don't really know what to do other than there's only one answer, and the answer is to drop out, and a lot of people don't want to do that because the key reason that we're in society is the comfort and the connection and everything like that. But if you find the right people, you drop out the right way. I won't get upset if you stop listening because you're out and not paying attention to the internet anymore, because you don't have to. That's the key to that, is you're not seeing what guys are talking about on the internet anymore, because you don't have to worry about it. That's what I want for everyone.
Yeah, and think about the hurdles that are in place for you to try and drop out of the system. The system is built up in a way that you can't get through that net as much as you try. Unless you're going to just randomly leave your house and go walk out to the middle of the bush or the outback, or go to Alaska and disappear. There's so many things preventing you. Homesteading is pitched as the answer to solve this problem, but even that's wrought with issues that surround you. You've still got property tax. You've still got, especially in Australia, you've got laws around what you can and can't produce. You could have government agents come in and test your crops and your animals for diseases, search, seizure, destroying. You're still in the system no matter what. It's unless you're going to go off into the wild and become a troll or a hobbit and live in a hole.
That's
they've
what
they've built this perfect system, haven't they?
What I think is to get out of the system, you either have to be really rich or really poor, and there's no in between, unfortunately. And I guess poor is, you have to redefine wealth, and if you're off the radar that much, you can create wealth in different ways, and you're probably even better off than some of the richer people out there if you don't have to participate in this system, if you don't need any kind of cash dollar money, and you don't even need gold or silver or Bitcoin or whatever else. You don't need any of that stuff. If you're at that point, you're actually doing great. It's just getting there is really hard, and you have to invest in being that poor.
It's definitely becoming the Aldous Huxley analogy, where you've got people living in these huge elaborate cities where all their needs and desires are given to them, and then you've got the nomads on the fridges that are going to be wild, which will probably be people like us, touch wood. But you can see that these 15-minute cities they're installing, it's not just about control. These parasite elites that are at the top, they want a serf class. They don't want to completely remove all people. They want their minions. They want their people to do their bidding. It's going to be like breeding stations, essentially. They're going to have those little hubs where they still breed and create people for their personal use.
Yeah, I think that they're not as confident in their robotics and AI that that they were originally whenever they came up with this plan, because I think that they've wanted to eliminate us for a long time. You know, Prince Philip talked about dreaming about coming back as a virus and wiping out most of the population because the world's overpopulated. And then you've got all these Paul Ehrlich population bomb people, you know, and yeah, I don't think that they're going to get what they need out of what they're trying. So they need to keep us around, and the 15-minute cities are a perfect little place to have people and you know utilize them as slaves. I mean, because really we all are to some capacity. We just have all these luxuries, and we're working more hours than the peasant class of the old days did. The You know, they got to spend a majority of their time with their families and taking walks and spending times with friends and going to pubs and doing all those kinds of things. They just spent a few hours a day working.
Yeah, it's actually really twisted that they've made us a slave to our own families, that in order to keep the bills paid, pay the mortgage off, put your kids through school, keep food on the table, you're stuck in that system. And we don't need to be like that. The past has proven it. The serfs of medieval Europe, they had more downtime. They would
Well,
work a few hours in the field and they might do some fishing or hunting, and they'd spend time with their family and raise their own kids. And they had no real issues society wise, apart from being forced to go to war with other nations. That hasn't changed. But they had, on average, a more relaxing lifetime with more downtime.
yeah, they turned it into a liability. So they made it a luxury. It's more expensive to have more, and yeah, it's really interesting how they swapped it on us like that, because a sign of wealth back in the day was if somebody had a whole bunch of kids. They had more people to help out around and everything, and people kept the same house for generations and generations, and it worked out great. But yeah, this is a new system where everybody thinks that they're going to, you know, be the seed that forges everything for, you know, for their future. And it's, yeah, without all that history, it's going to be hard. And we got psyoped into it. We fell right into it. I know I did, at least. You know, I fell right into the, you know, don't build generational wealth and don't have kids and all the other stuff like that. And, you know, I fell right into that scam. You've got some kids though, right?
No, I don't. Trying with my wife, but yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely something I definitely want to do. I don't think I could leave the world without having some kind of an imprint of me for the future to try and do something about what's happening. And I think that's what we have to keep doing.
The world would be missing the Missens.
It would be, absolutely. It's to go back to what you were saying about how they've flipped the idea of what wealth is. You look at royalty and the elites of back in the day, they were generally overweight people because they had such a high calorie intake. Well, the majority of the poor today have the highest calorie intake, and they're the fattest people. So they've inverted that as well. We're at a point in time where people are actively tracking their calorie intakes to make sure they're not getting obese. Why are we in a situation like that? It should be the opposite way around. You should be worrying about getting enough calories to survive. And now it's just everywhere.
They killed us with kindness.
Absolutely, they did.
It's like, oh, you know, I've got the air conditioning running right now, and things like that. I'm enjoying all the luxuries of this world, and this world is a mess, and then disconnecting from it is really the best thing you can do. I guess it's a theme that we've adapted, and might as well talk about Ted Kaczynski because it's been less than a week, and I'm hearing a lot about him just because everybody's done their eulogy. We kind of did ours at the WTF forum on Sunday, but what a genius! Really, really got it. He really knew how they would mess with our minds, and just the over socialization is what's causing a lot of this mess.
It's he had his finger on the pulse of what was coming very well, didn't he? You combine him with the likes of the hero that will be a folk hero in American history with the Killdozer. You got a lot of people that are noticing what's coming. Yeah, and he's going to be, Ted Kaczynski is going to go down in history as being one of the most evil human beings, and he's going to be remembered through Netflix documentaries and movies and television series. But he's not wrong. He's definitely not wrong. What came?
Not if we have something to say about that. Now,
yes.
I highly recommend checking out Pete Quinones and Aaron doing a read through of Industrial Society and its future. It's amazing, and Pete's read many of his articles and many of his just a lot of his writings, and go through Pete's channel because it's really nifty for that. But yeah, let's let everybody know that Ted was a prophet, and saw how things were going to go down, and we're living it now. It's like I know he was MK Ultra whenever he was in college, and maybe he saw their plan. I don't know exactly how that went down, but he saw it brighter than anybody else I know of.
And so far out too. Like this has only happened, I'd say in the past 10 years, we've seen a high escalation, and it's really ramped up in the past 3. That's very noticeable now. But he saw it that far back. The amount of foresight that he had is amazing. And to think that now, if you do want to be more self-sufficient and live on a few acres and make as much food as you can and produce your own energy, whatever, those things 20 years ago would have been seen as hippie-ish and green. And now it's right-wing conservatism and your potential threat and a national security issue. Just to be looking after yourself.
Yeah, that was on the list. They had homesteaders on the list. They don't like the talk of prepping. And in fact, there's I have to get the article to spit it out right. I know that that they wanted to have a list of everybody who had enough food for a month or more, something like that. They wanted to have lists, and yeah, it's scary, especially the way that we see the Merrick Garland and the way he's running things right now, and how he's still going after the people that walked around the Capitol, and going after Trump for his boxes and all that. This whole system is designed against you, and we saw the other day whenever they put their flags up what the real flag of America is right now. This is the occupying government, the rainbow flag occupation, and all the corporations are on board for it.
I can't help but notice because this is a brand new flag for the alphabet people. The lesbian, gay, and bi flag just used to be the rainbow. Now we've got this weird triangle for the trans and intersex people that have been added to it. And I can't help but notice that triangle symbolism at the top with going down vertically looks a hell of a lot like the Masonic flag. If you take the colors out and you have it blue and white, it's very Masonic.
Yeah, I don't think
not
they're
saying it's one way or the other, but can't help.
What's your take on that? Because I'm wondering if maybe they just kind of the Masons were they're a unit of power, right? And they're generally built throughout neighborhoods, and so maybe all the Mason stuff, all the things that got blamed on the Masons were to put a lot of us off of it, and that we don't have secret societies in our hometowns anymore that kind of just run things from behind the scenes, because it was really localized Illuminati, basically. And
Yeah,
now,
it's sorry, I think it's a strange thing, isn't it? Like, the average Mason that you ever speak to, you might ever know in your life, they're just a local guy from the community, right? It's like the Moose Lodge or whatever, the Rotary Club and stuff like that. They exist, but I can't help but feel there's an analogy that doesn't matter whether you're a bee, a bear, or an alien person. So you could be someone who's into the Masonic side of things. You could be someone that's into the prepping and homesteading thing, like one of the bears, or you could be a alien outer world type of person. Doesn't matter what community you belong to, there's some element of infiltration and co-opting going on to push public opinion in the way you think in your group. It could be 85% is correct and factual and there's nothing wrong going on. But if you've got that 15%, which is complete bullshit, that can throw everything else out.
I imagine it kind of runs like the different dioceses of the Catholic Church. And so some of them are going to be based and some of them are going to be terrible. But that most of them are elderly now, and it won't be around in a few years. I mean, maybe a couple decades. All of the remnants of it will have faded out, and because it's not being fueled with young people at all. And
we're not seeing that uptick or the intake that we're seeing. Same with religion. You're not seeing. I think in America more so, you're seeing a little bit of a last hurrah for Christianity. America's always been a Christian nation, but we're definitely seeing a resurgence, especially in what you would consider the based community. But you can see that starting to go on its way out, and you can see the likes of the Catholic Church getting ahead of that and trying to develop this new world religion, which kind of goes back to that idea that AI is going to rewrite the Bible for the future and make it more palatable and acceptable for everyone.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. We were talking about that before the show with so Yuval Noah Harari has decided that the Bible should be rewritten by AI. Extremely blasphemous idea right there. His whole concept was, the first thing that Gutenberg printed when he had the printing press was the Bible, but he printed the same Bible over and over again. This AI can make Bibles, but it can also change it. And I don't think anybody wants a changed Bible. I want the information that they took out. And
yeah, exactly.
More details on why things are included and why they're not, and better investigations into certain authorships,
Yeah, for anyone who is a Christian or anyone's interested in Christian theology, look at the Sudanese version of the Bible. That actually includes a lot of stuff around the Nephilim and Genesis and stuff like that.
It's Ethiopian Orthodox. It includes the Book of Enoch. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
But you have to think about, if I was to suggest that AI should rewrite the Torah or the Islamic faith-based texts, that wouldn't go down so well. There seems to be a definite attack on Christianity within all the world's religions.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons, over this 3 years of whatever we're dealing with, it's got me to become a Christian. And then, you catch flack when you're over the target, is really the thing that we're seeing here, is that, they're constantly attacking Christianity at this point. And it's the only religion I see really being attacked.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that there are a lot of arguments for why it's being attacked. Some horrible things have been done in the name of Christianity throughout time, but I can't help but notice that was the co-opting or bad players or bad individuals being used to set up the defamation of what Christianity is for the future. At one point, the world was built around Christianity, and those horrible things were put in place because they're playing this long game. I see this as they're playing a game that's hundreds, if not 1,000 years ahead of where we think. And if they know that they're setting up a world religion which could conquer the world, set things in place, build an infrastructure with it, and then defame it later on, they've kind of got they're playing all their cards in the right places.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that happened throughout history were overblown. and remembered whenever they probably were minimal compared to other things that have happened. It's just another psyop. Yeah.
Well, it's like what Norm Macdonald famously said, that what are the chances that throughout all of history the good guys always won? What are the chances?
Yeah. What are the odds of that? But yeah, I think we nailed it. I think we got it out here, and perfect timing too.
Awesome, man. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, I'll send you the audio, and you're free to put it out on your feed.
That'd be fantastic.
All right. Well, tell everybody where that is. Tell everybody how to find that feed. That makes sense.
Sure, Missen from Your Missing the Point podcast. MISSEN. It's a play on my surname. You can find it on all the usual podcatchers, now on iHeartRadio. I do have a YouTube account, but I don't do a lot of video. It's predominantly audio. Just search it, have a look on Instagram. You should find my name.
Awesome. If you're finding me on Drew's, it's libertylinks.io/the Doom Kitchen. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.